Okie dokie. It's that temperature, which is that temperature in old money. So let's get a fire going. First, I will need a means of lighting a fire. Let's do it differently today. I've got these extra long matches. Now, can I do this single-handedly? Let's see if I can do it single-handedly. Yeah. Yeah, that's going. Alright, there's a fire. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye. No, seriously, you can click off now. Apparently most people do. YouTube gives an analysis of video showing like the average viewer retention. And most people watch this for about 30 seconds, so... what is it you're doing in 30 seconds? You're like, fire's lit. Right, I'm bored now. Time to watch something else. Oh, he's not talking about anything. I guess the difference between, say, most people is... I imagine most people, when they're on YouTube, they're actively watching. What I mean by that is they're looking with their mobile phone or their telly, and it's like, okay, here's a video, I'm going to watch it now, and then they watch it, and then after a while they get bored because, as you know, it's just me lighting a fire and talking about whatever I find interesting that day. Whereas a minority of us, and I say us because I include myself in this us, we are passive watchers of YouTube, in that I watch it on the computer and I'll have YouTube on one window whilst I'm doing something else, or sometimes I'm not even watching it, I'm just listening to whatever's being said. And that's the way I consume the vast majority of my videos. A few times, like if it's a film, I'll actively watch it, but I find that's something which increasingly, it's something with my attention span I'm not good at. I think I prefer radio as well. I really. By the way, this is why my face isn't in it. If you have autism like I do, you will find people's gesticulations and facial movements, and indeed their faces, distracting. I much prefer listening to disembodied voices on a radio, as there is no movement to distract me from the voice, and this is how I prefer things are done. And I think that's why I find film, unless the film's got grand set pieces, I find film a very uninteresting format. The last time I actively watched a film, well, there's two last times. One of them was the chase scene in Ben-Hur, which I've never seen before. I don't know, some people are like, how can you have not seen Ben-Hur? It's a classic. Well, it's new to me. That chase scene, it's a chariot race in the Hippodrome, and it's all real. There's maybe some film edits here and there when a stunt man gets injured, but apart from that, it's wow. It's what's the word I'm looking for here? Come on, brain. It's all real. It's real, and the stakes are real. It is dangerous. You're dealing with horses, and my God, talk about action. I never seen something so exciting. Really liked it. It was brilliant. And in fact, when I was watching it, I said to myself, "This is where the pod race scene from the Star Wars film, the Phantom Menace, came from." Because I was watching it, and there's this bit where one charioteer, he's aggressively swerving into another charioteer, and he's damaging his chariot and his wheels, and they're getting interlocked, and they have a struggle. And I thought, so finally, when I've seen the because Star Wars is derivative of greater films that came before it, which is why I like Star Wars. I finally got the reference. So yeah, I actively watched that. By the way, the other thing which Star Wars copies from, and it's very good, I think it's called 622 or 633 Squadron, and it's about, it's not the Dam Busters, it's another bombing raid through some Norwegian valleys, or fjords as they like to call themselves, and they're not using, I think it's Lancaster bombers in the Dam Busters, but in this they're using Mosquitoes, which are a fighter bomber. And they're going through these valleys, they're having to do great acrobatics because they're trying to fly underneath the range of the flak artillery. And with a Mosquito, you have a pilot and you have a tail gunner who's also the bomber. And in the trench run scene in the first Star Wars movie, you've got the pilot, which is Luke, and then you have his bomber or tail gunner, which is R2-D2. So it's almost scene for scene identity. You can watch it. I think it's called Star Wars Trench Run vs 633 Squadron scene comparison, and it will play the two films side by side, and the scenes are just copied one for one. There's the choreography is the same, and I thought, you know what, that's actually absolutely fine. George Lucas went, well, this choreography's good. No need to fix something if it ain't broke. So he just took it and slapped it in a science fiction film, which is why you've got these futuristic laser cannons, which are in fact just German flak artillery, and then you've got stormtroopers using World War II German surplus guns with a bit of kit bashing on it. So, you know, it looks a bit more futuristic and space lasery. Oh, that's funny. But anyway, that's active watching. The other example I can think of active watching was a film which could be improved if they cut out everything after the first 5 minutes, called The Ballad of Buster Scruggs. And it's a collection of short stories. The titular character, Buster Scruggs, the singing gunslinger, he's only in the first 5 minutes. And if they just done that, if they just made it a short story, for a Cannes Film Festival or something, it'd have been great. I watched the film, expecting it. I mean, forgive me for being naive, but if it's called The Ballad of Buster Scruggs, I thought, right, this is going to be a story about the character Buster Scruggs doing gunslinging and singing and dancing and what have you. No. It's not a musical, it's just a collection of short stories. He dies in the first 5 minutes. Oh yeah, spoiler, he dies. And then it's the story changes to other things which are no relation whatsoever to Buster Scruggs, and they're boring and they're crap and they're rubbish and you shouldn't watch it. So it's not a spoiler, it's an improver. A spoiler is like, oh well, you've just told me something that's going to spoil the enjoyment of the film. No, by telling you this, I've improved the enjoyment of the film. And I went from actively watching it to passively watching after that, because I was in bed, I had it on the big screen, and the first 5 minutes I was like, oh, this is brilliant, this is great, the setting is good. I find it what is it, Arizona or New Mexico scenery. I find that desert region fascinating. And then it just turns to crap, and it is crap, and it's boring, and it's I was going to swear then. It's no good. So then I went to passive watching, and most of my watching is passive because most stuff is boring, and it's filler, and it's just people standing around talking, or sometimes they walk and talk. And this is one of the things I don't like about the pacing of the new Star Wars film. I say new Star Wars films. They're 20 years old now, these new Star Wars films. The pacing of the prequels, episodes 1 and 3, compared to the pacings of the original trilogy, which is... Oh, I'm just... Sorry, I'm getting rid of some cobwebs. Where... I mean, there were people sitting around and talking. I mean, there's the cantina scene where Han Solo's talking with someone that's not talking English, or some creature that looks like a frog or whatever. And but generally, just the talking and exposition in it feels a lot more engaging than the sequel series. And I can't say anything of the sequel series because I watched the first film and I thought, oh, well, this is A New Hope, but a bit shitter. So anyway, look at this fire. You see that? Are you still watching? If you are, give us a thumbs up. Anyway, you see this fire? It's going good, isn't it? So, I'm not going to put a log on it. I've got something new. Well, I say something new. It's actually old and recycled, but look. Now, if I did have an editor on this is the time when I'd have a picture of Greta Thunberg's face turn up on my thing, and she'd be smiling, and she'd be like, "Oh, good. This is very good." Because I've got something here that Greta Thunberg likes. It's recycled. It's sustainably sourced. It's biological. That's the French term for organic, so you know it's good. And it's just disintegrated in my hands, which is wonderful. Right, what I've got is compressed sawdust. So, put some compressed sawdust in, and then I'll have to vacuum clean the sawdust, or sweep the sawdust up with some dustpan brush and chuck it in the fire. But yeah, I've got a sawdust log. What was this? Someone said, "Oh, Hobbit, you should try burning MDF in your fire." I did, and then the flue turned red hot, which I could well believe. So hopefully, this is not bound with glue. It's just compressed sawdust, and I'm guessing by how readily it disintegrated, it is. But look at that. He says, look at that as it rolls out the fire. Very good. Oh yeah, that does smell like sawdust. If you've ever drilled into MDF and it starts getting hot and you've got this sort of dusty, powdery smell, is the only way I can describe it, you know that's the smell you've got here. It does smell like burning MDF, but that's probably just the smell of sawdust. And it's a dusty smell. And look at that, we've got a little ember there. I've got a cardboard box that's going to be burned later, but good thing that didn't land on the firelighter. That would have been unfortunate. Didn't need it today. We had one of those Amazon boxes to burn. Hopefully the last one for a while now. I had to buy a new mouse for my computer because the Logitech G402 mouse I've had since, 2012? It finally gave up the ghost. The middle mouse button on it had stopped functioning, and turns out I used the middle mouse button quite a lot, so that was no good. So I thought, fine, I've got a spare mouse which I bought back in 2015 or 16 by a company called Klim, and I like them because they're just a small quirky French outfit. And I said to my cousin, "Oh look, they got graphic artists on their team, and they're sort of doing stuff which reminds me of your art." And I read the blurb to him, and he sort of smiled and was like, "Yeah, this is very cute." But unfortunately on that one, that mouse is 95% functional. All the buttons work, the scroll wheel works. However, the left mouse button, it's almost as if somebody's having a palsy with the left mouse button. You can hold it down, and if you're in a game where you're firing, it will start stuttering. And worse than that, and absolutely, like, I can't use this is no longer functional for what I'm doing. You cannot lasso select, and whether it's work or play, a lasso select for me is very important. So it was impossible to do that. And then I thought to myself, well, I've got two other mice I can use. One's 20 years old, and it was actually my late uncle's mouse. And all of that works except the scroll wheel, so that was no good. And then I thought, well, I've got a wireless mouse, which is also by Klim, and this is not a good advert for them. God, look at that! It's already gone to 200 degrees. For some reason, up there, it's spitting out bits of dust. Maybe that's bits of creosote. I don't know. But yeah, the wireless mouse I got by them, it mostly works. And when I say mostly works, if the mouse is within 3 foot of the wireless dongle, it works fine. When I'm using it in my bed, I'm about 6 foot away, it doesn't work fine. I could probably work around that by having a USB extension lead like I have with my wireless keyboard. It's kind of funny, I call it semi-wireless because I have this lead and it's underneath my bed, so that the keyboard is effectively 3 foot away from the dongle as opposed to being 6 foot away, and that way it works fine. That mouse works fine. I like the feel and the weight of it, and the disco lights are very nice. However, the scroll wheel on it likes to occasionally go the opposite direction, and maybe I've got a bit of dust on the optical sensor. Maybe there's something in the software which makes it go wrong. Either way, it's not been good for mice for me. So I've got a new mouse now, and it's can I bring it over? It's this thing. It's very light. It feels quite similar to the G302. Well, to be honest, like most mice are like this. And oh look, so there's a DPI sensitivity switch, and when I press it, do you see how that's changing colour? So I looked at the guide, and it said, yeah, that will show you what DPI is saying. Now red is that one, and then the one above red is green, and I think that's the setting I like on it. Main thing about this is I'm not sure if you can see this cable, but it's braided and it's very flexible. I mean, I'm pressing down with my fingers and you can't see because it's black. But if I didn't know any better, I'd say it's just the individual wires in there, covered by a protective braid. And it's the lightest cable I've ever had for any USB device ever. Don't know how they've done it. Maybe they're using silicone wires as opposed to PVC. Because I have used silicone wires like that before, which are very floppy. But it's wonderful. It's what is it? I've got the box. Not a sponsor, but this is the mouse I'm using. It's called a Model D, and there's There's a bit of a blurb on the back as well saying about all the features, which I'm never going to read. There used to be a time when I was very interested in reading about a gadget's features, but these days I just go, right, can I use it straight away? Yes, I can. Good. It's the same with the radio in my car. I think I mentioned this in a previous episode. My God, look how hot. That was like at 200 degrees a while ago. It's gone all the way up to 400. It's in fact, yeah, that is MDF. That is burning way too hot. Well, let's have a look at it, shall we? Because I'm curious to see how much of that has burnt away in that time. But my, oh yeah, there was a big burst of fire then. But oh, it's mostly intact. So yeah, great. Well, I've got another 4 of those logs, and I spent £7 on that in Lidl. That's where they were selling them. I think I might get another couple of batches of those, because my God, if you need a lot of heat and fast, get one of those sawdust logs. I'm actually warm now. I mean, if you see this, it says 62 Fahrenheit, which is 16 degrees. But what that thermometer can't appreciate is the infrared heat coming out of there. I can feel it on my face, and I can feel, oh yeah, that is good. Yeah, great. Success. Anyway, thanks for watching my video. Go away.